Welcome back to another episode of Into the Airbnb, where we chat with Airbnb hosts about their short-term rental experience. Today's guest is DeAnne Davidson, based in the Washington coast, who has been a short-term rental owner since 2007. Today, DeAnne will share with us about her experience in the last 15 years, some useful tips, and the secrets to become a successful and respected Airbnb host. This episode is sponsored by Airbnb, the only one analytics dashboard for short-term rental investors and managers, where you can find precise Airbnb data such as occupancy rate, revenue, average daily rate, and so on. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Can you please tell us how did you get started on Airbnb or on short-term rentals?
It was on accident. We had a vacation home ourselves on the Washington coast, but went for a drive and found this beautiful property up on a cliff that had a 180-degree ocean view. And we decided to purchase that and build 2 townhomes, a duplex style townhomes on it. And basically the only way we could afford it is to do short-term rental. What we planned to do is on one side and have the other place for ours. But it became so popular that we ended up renting both sides short-term rental and doing very well. We were one of the first short-term rentals in our area, so there was a high demand when we started 15 years ago in 2007. And from there, we bought other ones in the mountains and more on the ocean over time. So kind of got started on accident, and I didn't discover Airbnb until about 2009, but they were fairly new back then as well. So we had already formulated all our rules and how to stay at our place before we got to Airbnb, but love Airbnb because they have the systems down as well. So that's kind of how we got started.
Oh my God, that's a great history. And tell me, before you discovered Airbnb, how were you doing these short-term rentals? Like, how was the distribution of the news that you were doing short-term rentals? Where did your guests came from, and all of that?
Okay, before Airbnb, we did our own website. So we'd have a website to refer to, and we did, believe this or not, we did little color brochures that we passed out in the little travel companies around our state. Most of our people come from Washington. They travel, from Eastern Washington or, a couple hour drive to come to the beautiful beach, clam dig, horseback ride, do fun stuff. So we found that was a good way. And then online, we got the people that traveled to Washington from other states coming to us. So summertime, we get the travelers from all over the United States, and in the fall, winter, and spring, we get the locals. So that's how
I see. So when you first discovered Airbnb and started to use their platform, did your revenue significantly increase with that?
Well, I would say it did help in the beginning. It did help give us another avenue to get people from, but it helped us more, I guess, in the later years, more as we stayed on and became, the good hosts that we are and got known. So in the beginning, it was a little different because we had already established our website and everything. But I like Airbnb because they do screen and they do verify owners, and I do like the way that they do the reviews. Each one can honestly review, and that just makes me more comfortable when people come and stay.
Since you were one of the first people, I guess, who got to use Airbnb since you were already doing short-term rentals before. Have you tried using other platforms similar, for example, VRBO, and what was your experience with them?
I did use VRBO. I did use VRBO, and in the beginning, VRBO was very good. My experience with them over the years is they got too big and they didn't have a lot of things in place like Airbnb. So I chose to not do VRBO anymore. I also do a website with a local Oregon and Washington. It's just beach houses. It's called Beachcombers Northwest. And we do get people that directly want to come to the beaches in Washington and Oregon through that website as well.
Okay, that's good to know. So let's fast forward to the present, and I would like to ask you, in the area you're hosting, how is the seasonality like?
The high season is summer, of course, because we have the perfect 75 to 80 degree days in the summer. And we get a lot of travelers from out of state coming to see our beautiful Northwest. But we do have a strong winter season because people love to watch the storms come in. We have the front row. We have front row seat to the winter storms, and they're fun to watch. But you're cozy in our comfy home while you watch them. So a lot of couples like to get away for a little romantic getaway. So we do have a strong, we call it off season, that's pretty steady, at least on weekends in the winter time as well. Fall is a wonderful mid-season time because the weather is kind of moderate. It's 65 degrees and lots of clam digging happening. So we're pretty much busy all year long with guests, but they're just different types of guests during the seasons.
Okay, that's good. And in all this, like throughout the year, what is your average occupancy rate like?
Okay, we're 100% in the summer months. We're 100% occupancy. I would say in the lower off-season months, we're probably maybe 60% occupancy during those times. But it's great because we get to enjoy it, and we also get to work on our houses. That's the time we get to do, maintain our homes and make sure that they're really good for the high season. So
that's right. That's right. Okay, so also throughout the year, what is your pricing strategy?
Pricing strategy. Well, we've got our prices pretty well set. I have noticed the demand has increased, so we've kind of elevated our prices somewhat, but I kind of watch the competition to make sure we're kind of in the ballpark. We're not the highest, we're not the lowest, but we want to have the best product out there. Most of our clients right now, being 15 years, are repeat guests. So I have developed a little club called the Whale Tail Club that our repeat guests join. That means they're good guests that have always left our home in good condition, and they get little perks from us. They get a little discount, or they get a little surprise when they come. And they get to book way ahead, the public. So I've offered these repeat longtime loyal guests some benefits to staying with us. So we do keep full with that, and then we fill in with some new guests in between.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
Can you tell me if you tried, like in the past or right now, using a dynamic pricing tool or a pricing tool? Any of that?
I have not used any of the pricing tools. I kind of just watch the market. I, kind of do a market analysis in our area. And you can always tell, if your phone's ringing off the hook, it's probably too low. And so we've kind of found our niche with, couples with the dog seem to be our niche. and the price point that they're willing to pay, and the outcome is usually good, that you can't tell they've been a guest here. They leave our house so good. So, that's all factored in. I don't just try to get anybody in here. We have a pretty specific clientele.
Oh, that's good that you know about your target audience, so you can get to attract them and get to see how they behave.
Right.
How do you, right now that you're doing Airbnb, how do you get to sort out your guests? You wouldn't like to bring anyone. That's what you told me. So do you run background checks on them or something?
What I do is I do the auto book on Airbnb, and I've listed the criteria that I want, and they have to have a referral from a prior guest. That's one of my criteria. And we also narrowed our down. We used to sleep 8 in each home. I've narrowed it down to 4. So by having smaller groups, we get the couples with the grandparents, or the couples with 2 kids. We just get a smaller crowd, and that's, that helps us become more effective. But if they fit all the guidelines on the auto booking, then it's not an issue. But I do talk to them, message them before, to make sure we're a good fit before, they come. I want to make sure we're a good fit. So I do have the conversation with them in the messaging format after they've booked. So we want to make sure. Anyway, that's kind of what I do.
That's a great strategy, to be honest. And after you got started on Airbnb, did you find there to be more trouble guests than before, or you didn't get to experience any of this yet?
When I first started on Airbnb, I was less experienced. And so we were getting random troubled guests. But for the most part, if you utilize the platform properly, it's a trust in us and trust in the guest. And if that doesn't happen, then you're not going to have a good guest. So that's why I go back to the conversation after they book, or when they're asking to book. If they don't qualify for some reason, they might ask to book, and then I have my questions. And I don't necessarily block someone or I don't necessarily not book someone if they haven't had any experience yet. But if I have the conversation and ask the appropriate questions and they fit, then I will let them stay. So.
I see. And do you still get some trouble guests sometime in the present, or not?
I haven't had any trouble guests probably in the last 5 or 6 years.
Oh my God.
Yeah, no bad ones from Airbnb, because I'm really sticking to it, and I'm sticking to what they lay out and following their guidelines on that. And they do let me reject. If I'm uncomfortable, I can reject that guest and not be penalized as a host. So it's worked for me.
That's every host dream, to get no trouble guests at all.
Yeah, I know.
Are there any tips you like to give out to Airbnb hosts, so they can also get to know their target audience and to filter out the bad guests in Airbnb?
Yes. The best for a new person, brand new hosting, I would suggest starting out with just, even if you can sleep more people, starting out with smaller groups. Don't try to do a group of 10, your first year, until you get a feel for people, because we are in the people business, basically. Sure, we offer nice homes and everything, but you have to understand people. You have to like people to be in this business. And you get a feel for when you have conversations, you get a feel for the type of person that's going to be staying in your home. And I think that's really important when you've invested a lot of money in your real estate, that you get good people in your home and you treat them good. So I would say my best tip is to start small with small groups, couples and a child, just to start with until you get a feel, and until you get some good reviews under your belt and a good feel for it. And then my second tip is to always go and stay at your home. Stay at your home, every so often for a couple nights and see what the guests are seeing, because you'll see something different than just walking through a home or looking at the pictures of your home. When you actually live it, you go, oh yeah, that's what the guests meant by their feedback, So that would be a second tip I'd offer.
So that's a really good tip to get your own Airbnb experience, right? I've never heard about that before, but yeah, it's really good. In all your years doing short-term rentals and also with Airbnb, what have been your top challenges? It can be anything, guest related, money related, property related. You can let us know.
Okay, the top challenges I would say for any Airbnb owner or vacation home owner, and for myself at times, is finding a good team members to help you. The cleaners, the yard workers, the home repair people. When you're in a remote area where your resources are limited, sometimes that is very, very hard. And trust me, your cleaner is probably your most important asset that you have in this business. Without a clean home, your guests aren't going to return. So that would be my top challenges for owning a vacation rental that you rent out.
Yeah, that's good to know your experience as well. Any other tips you like to share for Airbnb hosts? Any particular thing you've learned? Anything you like to share?
Boy, thought I covered everything. My biggest, I wouldn't do over 30 nights. You're getting into long-term rentals there, and in Washington, it's a whole different animal. You have to evict if it's over 30 days. You have to go through formal eviction. So I wouldn't try to get in that over 30 days on a guest. That would be one tip. And I wouldn't do one nights either. You don't get as good of a guest at for one night. Pop in, pop out. That's like a motel person, as you do with, we found that our sweet spot was 3 to 4 nights. Those were the perfect guests. They kept the place clean, they were neat and tidy, and they got to relax. There was enough time to relax. And so don't try to do those long-term. I know Airbnb pushes that a lot, but I think you're asking for more trouble when you get into that. It's a whole different game than the traveling public.
I see. So now that you're telling us this one tip, have you tried long-term rentals before? And that's where your knowledge comes from?
I have done long-term rentals, and they're a disaster, at least in Washington State, because there's so many rules. There's so many rules that favor the tenants over the owners. So I got out of all my long-term rentals and changed to short-term, and I love short-term rentals.
I see. Yeah, I can understand about it. What were things that you hated most about the long-term rentals, sorry? Did they affect your revenue significantly? You told me that you had many troubles with that, with the Washington State and also
Washington State. Yeah, Washington State law is different. It may be different in every state. I don't know, but in Washington State law, if it's over 30 days and they don't leave, then you have to file court case and have them evict. So they could technically stay here a year without you being able to kick them out. if it's over 30 days. So it's nonsense to even try to do something like that. Also, I have done like a 28-day summer stay, and you do lose revenue when you do those long terms, because you can't charge the same rate when they're doing 28 days. Like I said, we found the optimum was 3, 4, even a week stay is good. And that way you keep a handle on what's going on inside your home. It stays clean. You can keep it up. The long-term stays, there's a lot of hindrances of it with that. So
can I get to know an average? How would be like your monthly revenue or annual revenue?
Let's see. Well, our annual revenue, I mean, we just have 2 units now. Like I said, we're sized down from 5, 2 units, and each unit produces about 50 a year. So for the 2 units, about 100,000 annual.
So that'd be it for today. And thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing all these tips and all your experience with us. It has been great.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Into the Airbnb. We're looking for hosts and other people in the short-term rental industry to interview. If you have what we need and would like to share your experience in this podcast, please send us an email. All the info is at the end of the description.